How many athletes have we seen at that level of Kiptum? That level of you show up and you show out and you make everyone understand you're here. There are not many, if you think about it. He's a once-in-a-generation sort of athlete, the kind of athlete who, if you look back through Kenya's career, you'll see them every once in a while, like someone whose talent is inexplicably great. Like you cannot even explain how they get where they get. You know, it's similar to when you first saw Pamela Jelimo. As soon as you see her, you know, this is ridiculous. This is a ridiculous talent. That's what Kelvin was. So yes, the area will feel that, especially when, like you're saying, the extrication has happened violently and with no warning. And it's such kind of tragedy where you basically wake up one morning, young man is training, the next minute he's gone. So yes, there will be a huge sense of loss, there will be a huge sense of grief, there will be a huge sense of disbelief, and that it's intersped or intertwined with anger and frustration. At one time you're angry at everything that's happening. You're angry at why did it happen, and then you're frustrated. What have we lost? How much better would we have become? And then you go back to just the sense of loss. You've lost a young man, you've lost a young parent, you've lost a budding superstar, you've lost an incredible talent. You've lost so many things in one person. And you've lost all of them so suddenly, so quickly, so violently, and the sense of loss, you cannot quite put it in words. We can all sit here and try and talk about it, but ultimately you get to a point you really cannot say anything more about it.
Indeed, and of course, on your screen right now is the two presidents, the vice president of athletics, of World Athletics, and the president of World Athletics, Sebastian Coe. They're seated there, just of course reflecting. What I found very special, Wakabi, is how immediately after the news filtered globally that Kelvin Kiptum was no more, World Athletics was quick to send out a statement, and it was a personalized statement by Sebastian Coe, who eulogized him and said the world has lost a great athlete. I felt there's a way he felt like a personal loss, because he was with him in Monaco in 2023 when he was of course during the celebration for the World Athletics Awards. Sebastian Coe was with him at that particular point, and that was, I believe, perhaps would have been the last time that they met physically.
Yes, it would be. And then remember, just a few days prior,
he ratified.
He just ratified his world record. And you've got to remember something. We are in the era of road running. We are in the era of marathon running. I think marathoners are currently some of the most popular athletes in the world. Whichever way you look at it, marathon is such a central part of running because of recreational athletes, because of all the road running we have. We had World Road Running Championships last year for the first time, when we were trying to bring all these road running athletes together. And that's why the profile grows. That's why the profile of marathoners has really grown, because of all the things that happen around them and everything else that accompanies road running. It's not like back in the days when the marathon was coming right at the end. Now, everyone highlights to see what's going to happen in the marathon. When we check, we all want to know what's happening in the marathon, because it's gained prominence a lot in the last, maybe the last decade, you would say?
Yes.
Maybe the last decade it's just been all about road
for
running,
us, we've been following it for much longer.
Yes, but for the world, like for the world. And then, of course, we are in the era of social media. We are in the era of the internet, where something just goes round the world. And the kind of tributes he got, the kind of condolence messages he got, just tells you how much more attached people are, because nowadays the world is really a village. We used to say this when we were young. We used to be told global village. It really is today. So when something happens out in Eldoret, it then is people can resonate with it all over the world. And I guess that's part of the reason why you're able to see some of those things happen.
Right. Just to remind you of what is transpiring right now on your TV, it is the final run, the final lap. Of course, this expression has been used numerous times, Wakabi, when it's in times of grief. He's ran his last race. He's run his last race and he's finished. And for the late Kiptum, it's so poignant, because he ran in life. And for us, it's also a marathon. Life is a marathon. If you look at it, if you interrogate it, life is a marathon. All of us are in this marathon called life. And for Kiptum, it's still surreal. I know for many of those who, of course, who are making their way into the Chepkorio ASK showgrounds, because we understand that hundreds of people are still streaming in. Some were there several hours earlier. For them, this specific moment on your screen right now, Wakabi, is to have that, to some extent, a sense of closure, to realize that he is no more. So for them to see him lying there in the casket is for them now to accept the harsh reality that he is no more.
Yes, like you get a chance to say your proper goodbye. So whether you're Lord Sebastian Coe, or you're Bob Vierbach, or you're Mark Kosjens, or you're Barnaba Koril, who's on your screen right now, or you are his kids and his late father, who they are all sort of telling Pole to, it's for you to get a chance to say, you know what, it's goodbye. You're able to say goodbye, and you're able to pay your last respects. And like I said, the key word for me this week has been befitting. We've been able to have a befitting send-off to a man who, in 10 months, was able to achieve incredible things and which bring joy to this country. Because when you break a world record, of course, the joy is not just to you personally, it's also for Kenyans to sit back and say, you know what, the world record holder is from Kenya. So at least we have been able to do that, and that has been a key thing for me, that we've been able to say goodbye in the proper way. The athletics fraternity has come together in a way it's not done before, at least not to this level, just to come out and say, you know what, we say kwaheri, may you rest in peace, but just to be able to do it in a way that befits a man who, because when you think about it, Bernard, how long has his whole career been?
Right.
You think about it, from 2018? Like his first official race
years,
you can find, it's 2018. So even his whole career as a whole has been very, very brief. But in that brevity, he's been able to achieve incredible things. And like you said, befitting send-off, and maybe comforting the family, comforting his father, comforting his son, comforting his daughter, comforting his wife and his mom, just for them to at least feel they are not alone in this period. You at times when in times of grief, in times of mourning, Bernard, I feel like you need to feel like you have the support of people. You've got the support of your friends, of your relatives, and even just strangers, just people who are willing to give you a word to say Pole to you.
Well, you can see there the hundreds of residents who are just waiting to pay their last their tribute to the late Kelvin Kiptum. Very orderly, very calm, reflective, Wakabi. We just saw earlier images of the family there in front of the dais there. For them, it's been a very difficult few days from the 11th, once the news filtered in that Kelvin Kiptum was no more. It's been very, very, very tough for the entire family, for the residents, for the country, for athletics family. We can't re-emphasize how raw the emotions must be, because this period, when you have a lot of people just coming to support you, it helps to some extent. You have a shoulder to lean on. You have a hand to hold. You have somebody to wipe away your tears. But once the reality sinks in much, much later, that's usually the toughest work. And that's why sometimes in some instances you find it's important to ensure that this support is consistent, even if it's possible, have official and professional help, because it helps. Because there's no right way of mourning. There's no right way of grieving a lost loved one. So it's the reality of life, but it's scary as it is, Wakabi, but it just reminds us of our mortality. You can see there the two children, just letting it sink in. You can see the wife. You can imagine how it feels for her. It's been tough, Wakabi. She's the one seated there with, of course, the close-up. Now we're going to get a sense of her emotions. Just thinking, yeah, it's tough. You're having to put that aside just to acknowledge people's condolences, acknowledge people's Pole.
Especially because you've had to do it since yesterday.
Since yesterday.
And because of the stature of the man, you almost it's almost taken away from you, because this is essentially a state funeral.
Yes.
Okay. It's essentially it's almost bigger than you. So you've got to be in your own feelings, and you've got to try and manage and handle it. At the same time, you've got to handle the two young children who are there, who, like you said earlier on, do they even comprehend? Do they not comprehend? I'm not sure they do. I'm not sure, because 7 is really young. So it's one of those things we just have to try. But maybe you should